The following is a 5 for 2 production.
This song's about a fraction. It's about having people force their dreams down your throat. And it's called 5 for 2, and it goes an awful lot like this. So Jim, he was all grown up now and taking the bus to work. It had been a while for him. You see, he had his college degree and his master's and 5 PhDs and 10 more masters. But his wife, his wife took the family truckster out to California to meet Jose Canseco. That guy. And well, his son Josh, we all know he's still out following the replacements around because he heard Winona Ryder goes to those shows. He mails letters home. I guess it's going well. He thinks he's gonna get her. Back to the bus. Jim's riding along and the buildings go from new to medium old to old. And the bus stops and this stinky guy gets on with his hair all like mine and he comes back. And he sits down next to him, and he goes, man, what do you say you trade me $5 for these $2 I got, man? Well, Jim's mind was like a computer with all his degrees. And he thought about it, but he saw no advantages. So I turned back to the man and said, sir, I don't know about these sort of things usually, but I don't think I can give you that money. And let me explain to you real quick. And I'll be brief. I'll use my training. Now you want me, I'm on his way. Where'd you run your business? Where'd you go to school? No one's gonna trade you 5 for 2. No one's gonna trade you 5 for 2, no. You trade 5 for 2, yeah. 5 for 2. You trade 5 for 2. Yeah. Well, the guy with the frazzled hair, he turned back and said, man, I'll tell you what I do. I can tell you got a lot of education, so I'm gonna lay it on you. See, I take these buses a long way around, out into the suburbs, and I lie in the grass for the shopping malls and on the 10th holes of the golf courses, and I bask in the sun and I rub my temples and shake my hips and dream about what it's like to have a life like yours. And if you apply yourself, it's just like being there. You just have to concentrate real hard. You can feel your wife, you can eat your French toast in the morning. I got some advantages though. One, no mandatory drug tests where I work, which is nice. I think I get extra sleep at night knowing that. And two, I can set my schedule however I want. I can take weekends in the middle of the week, and I can take them all week long. See what I'm saying? So let me explain something to you. 5 days a week, put your jacket on. 5 days a week, you can't wait to take it off. You're working all night, some other man. You're trading 5 days to do your whole life, my friend. 5 days to do your whole life, Jim. Trading 5 for 2.
your favorite Batman movie you have seen? He thought about it for a moment and said the one with Michael Keaton's underrated. It was our first podcast. Yeah, we're doing a podcast. Click the link, listen to our podcast. Yeah. We talk about things and stuff. My Android or your new iPhone. Now what's your favorite Pixie song? That walking zombie TV show? Your Luke or are you Vader? Just the movies we all hated. We don't talk about women. We just hope they'll listen to our podcast. We hope chicks dig our podcast. They'll hit the link, listen to our podcast. We wrote a song about our podcast. Yeah, we're having a podcast. We're having a podcast. Click the link to our podcast. We'll share the link to our podcast. We're having a
Hello and welcome to episode. Why? How do you
Why?
do the? How do you do the
Why?
YMCA?
Why, Kevin? Why did you make me do this? But God bless you, buddy.
Only two more left, Todd. Tonight and one more. I mean, you've made it.
I'm hoping by the time we get to Z, I'll get the fucking book finished, and we'll actually have something to promote by the end of this goddamn thing. So we're almost there, folks. We're heading to the end. Now, Kevin, I know you've got a couple bands you want to mention.
Just a couple to mention, and then we got a very special guest coming up here.
Special guest tonight. Yes.
Who could it be? Who could it be?
I'm not saying nothing, but before we get to all the festivities, it's been kind of a sad week, folks.
It's been a sad week for you and I. That's true.
In the Ticket Stubs drive-by truckers world, and we lost a good friend this week.
That's right.
And so we just want to say goodbye, farewell, au revoir to our good friend Jimmy C. Coogan. So
right.
Jimmy, I know I'll see you again someday.
I
guarantee that.
Now, Todd, I wanted to tell, of course, we put a dedication up to Jimmy at the beginning of the show, so people were like, who's this guy? But you can actually Google this guy, folks. He was featured in the New York Times a few times. He was one of America's finest cheese connoisseurs.
This man was a connoisseur of life, folks. Let me tell you. Because anytime I got together with Jimmy, I had some of the best times, some of the best wines, some of the best food, and some of the best friends that I have ever had in my entire life.
Now, Todd, I mess around with podcasting with you, and Jimmy actually got to go on radio shows with Emeril Lagasse.
Yeah. He's popular.
Jimmy was big time.
People actually cared what he said, Kevin. So no offense to you or I. I know that.
Now, Todd, I have to tell, since we are talking about Jimmy, I have to tell my meeting Jimmy C's story, because I believe I met him before you. I think I introduced you to him at Homecoming in 2008, I believe.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, you didn't.
Okay. Then you hold your Jimmy C meeting story until I tell mine. But I met him on Friday, October 26th of 2007. I was on my first solo DBT road trip. It was my second night. I had gone to State College, Pennsylvania the night before. Slept in a rest area, hardcore. Drove in to see our good friend Wolf in Mike Doherty in New York City. And
now, what day was this?
This was Friday, October the 26th, 2007. New York Bowery Ballroom.
You
I
beat me, you bastard.
I knew I did. But it was a very momentous occasion in Trucker Lore, Todd. It was the first night that it was the night that Shauna sang "I'm Sorry, Houston" for the first time.
Why was I not there with you?
I don't know. One of the many questions we've asked at some of these moments here in the show, but you weren't. But anyway,
I wasn't.
Jimmy just happened to be the guy next to me in the crowd. And, we were close up near the stage, of course. He said, hey, can I buy you a beer if you stayed at my place? And I said, of course. And he looked at the beer I was drinking. It just happened to be a Newcastle Brown Ale. It's not like my favorite beer or anything. It just happened to be what I was drinking that night. For the rest of the time that I've ever known Jimmy at a concert, he would always continually, I never bought a beer when I was around him, and it was always a Newcastle Brown Ale. All from that one moment. We also stood out on the street corner in Brooklyn, New York, and smoked a big fat joint after the show. I thought that was pretty much of a culture shock for me. But anyway, that was the first meeting with Jimmy C. He did ride the train with us under protest. He said he did not ride the train in New York City. Also, when I visited Jimmy once in his apartment, he told me he didn't go on the west side of New York because it smelled over there. So this is Jimmy, west side
Jimmy
New York.
was a very particular New Yorker, folks. Look, I've gone into restaurants with Jimmy where we walked in the door. There was a line of maybe 6 or 7 people, and he said, "You know what? Nah, we're not waiting," and walked right the fuck out.
Todd, I think you should tell the bottle of wine story for Jimmy C. I think that would truly represent some of your relationship with Jimmy.
Well, you might have to,
Jimmy took you to dinner, and you were paying the bill.
The $200 bottle of wine.
You allowed Jimmy. You made the mistake of allowing Jimmy to pick the wine.
All right, so folks, if you don't know, I've written a couple books about my adventures with the drive-by truckers, and if you venture right into story number 1 in volume 2, volume 5, part 2, Jimmy comes into play immediately. So look, folks, we could tell Jimmy stories all night long, and in fact, we probably should do an entire Jimmy show, and maybe we will. But folks, we got a special guest tonight. We got other things to talk about.
Jimmy would want us to get on with the show. He'd be like, "What are you guys sitting around yapping about me?"
Look, I'm dead. There's nothing you can do about it.
Go on, tell your stories.
Yeah, exactly. So Jimmy, we'll be telling your story sometime soon, my friend. And God bless you. I know for a fact that there's a wine bar waiting for me with a seat up top. So, well,
Godspeed, Jimmy C. Godspeed.
We'll see you soon, my friend. We'll see you soon.
All right, so Todd, let's get on to the rock show, as Jimmy would have us do. You said you don't really have anybody except for one of the artists we're going to talk about with our guests. So, all right. Okay, so you never saw Yes then?
No.
Really? Okay. Did you ever see?
Yes. No.
Did you see Asia? Yeah. Did you see Asia back in the day?
I kind of liked the first record, but no, never saw them. They played Hershey, or they played City Island in Harrisburg in '83, okay. But no.
Okay. What about Moody Blues? Did you ever see Moody Blues?
That's about as depressing as yes.
Okay. There's a reason I'm asking all this, and then you have actually told a story in E about seeing Emerson, Lake, and Powell. Didn't you say it was the first time you ever got a backstage pass?
Free show. That's the only reason I went.
Oh, yep. Okay. Well, anyway, the reason I ask is because I've seen Yes, both versions. In case people don't know,
all of them.
There's 2 versions of Yes out there. There's Yes, which is Steve Howe and his band of sound-alikes. He has the John Davidson guy on vocals.
Kind of like the Styx.
Exactly. Much like Styx. Then there's Yes ARW, which is John Anderson and Rick Wakeman from the classic Yes.
Well, he's
And
dead,
then,
isn't he?
and then, pardon?
Isn't he dead?
No, you're confusing him with John Lord from Deep Purple, I believe.
Oh.
Rick Wakeman is very much alive, still wearing his cape. But and then also the R is Trevor Rabin, so it's kind of a mix of the classic Yes and the 80s Yes. Now, I went to see both in the same summer, 2 summers ago, I believe. Now, the Royal Affair tour came here to Columbus. That was Steve Howe's version. Todd, I got to say, this was the most smooth run, like, 4-band affair I ever saw. Okay, so Carl Palmer comes out and does his Emerson, Lake and Powell tribute. It's Carl Palmer. This is weird. He had no keyboard player. He had a young guitar player doing basically like all the Keith Emerson stuff on guitar. Kind of interesting. But anyway, so he did that show in a hot summer afternoon, 70-some-year-old Carl up there with his shirt off, playing the gong, fucking doing the double gong, for his drum solo. But one of, I don't know if you know this, but Carl Palmer actually got his start in rock and roll as a part of the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, as part of his band. Now, you know who that is, right? Fire, sure. Da, da, da. Supposedly it was a big Alice Cooper influence, I guess.
For sure, absolutely.
Okay. Well, anyway, he was there as well. So he came out and actually did Fire and was kind of an MC for Carl's set. So at the end of Carl's set, Arthur Brown thanks everybody. He was like outlandishly dressed. It was like what you would want to see if you're seeing Arthur Brown. And as he's kind of thanking everybody in the audience, literally Carl and the boys are walking off, and John Lodge from Moody Blues Band is walking on, and they just immediately start right into their set. So there was no downtime. So then following them, they did the same thing for Asia. Now, this was 3 out of 4 of the original members of Asia, of course, because John Wetton has passed away. Now, Steve Howe didn't play the whole set. Most of the set was Carl Palmer, Jeff Downs, Billy Sherwood on bass, who was also the bass player for Yes. But you're going to like this, Todd. This is a throwback to our episode G. We talked about the guitar players in Guns N' Roses and their wacky names. Well, when Bumblefoot left Guns N' Roses, he's now the singer and guitar player in Asia. I got to give the guy credit. He sounded a lot like Wetton, and it was really cool when Steve Howe came out to join them for 4 songs. He got
here's Bumblefoot.
I think you said your name was going to be Jungle Fungus when you joined Guns N' Roses. I'm Jungle Fungus. But anyway, another cool thing.
Zen Pezfield.
So anyway, after Asia's set, then they actually did do some downtime, and they played a movie about Yes up on the screen, and Steve Howe came out and did his whole Yes thing. The coolest thing about that show, though, Todd, really for me, was meeting Roger Dean, the artist who drew all those cool classic, Yes album covers in Asia and everything. So that was he was along for the tour, so he was like signing works and meeting people over to the side. So that was pretty cool. But what I wanted to say about the ARW version of Yes, which again is John Anderson, the original singer, Rick Wakeman, the most famous keyboard player, and Trevor Rabin, the guitar player from the 80s version. But number one, John Anderson is so short that they've had a riser for him in the middle of the stage, like a drum riser that he stood up on just so that he would be at the same height as Trevor Rabin on one side and Rick Wakeman playing his keyboards on the other. But Todd, Rick Wakeman donned the cape and did the guitar solo walking through the audience. That's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. You gotta give it up for the guitar and the cape.
Sure. Hey, look, anybody wearing a cape, I'll give it. So, hey, 1, 2, well, who else we got? Kevin. Mean Streak. Mean Streak.
YT were one of the last bands I got to see before all this bullshit this year, Todd. I actually got to see them as a band play live this year. So.
Well, now, all right. So, who is there? Anyone still in the band that was in the original or no?
Actually, most of the original band have passed away, including Leonard Hayes, the coolest member this year. But Dave Minichetti, the main guy,
lead singer.
Yep, lead singer. Dude, he sounds great. He's got that, like, he's drinking that Sammy Hagar Bay Area water, man. I mean,
He's
he
got
looks
that
young.
John Cougar Mellencamp. Now I sound like an old black guy, boys.
No, he sounds good. He sounds good.
I sound like Kevin from the bar down in New Orleans. I sound like Reverend Todd Baker. Is what I sound like.
Anyway, so yeah, it was cool. It was cool to finally see them. There's a good documentary about Y&T that, like, even non-fans, like, would appreciate. Gotta appreciate a band that hangs on for all those years. So.
Main Street. Dude,
Yeah,
I love that song. It was a great song, but
yeah.
honestly, I don't think I actually bought the record. I like the song.
I had that song on. If I would have known that I was going to tell this specific story about Y&T, I should have pulled it out. But on one of those K-Tel Masters of Metal, my K-Tel Masters of Metal.
That'd be the only reason why to buy a K-Tel record is for Main Street. I think
it also has, like, it has like Sticks, and those K-Tel albums were weird. It's like it'd be like Masters of Metal, and then it would have like Sticks and
Death.
Yeah, Journey. It's like wait a minute. The definition of heavy metal was much different in the late 70s than it came to be. But Todd, that does it. We've got a special guest coming up, so let's take a quick break. And
back to more Ticket Stubs.
Who's it gonna be?
Fingers crossed. Hey, folks, and welcome back to episode Y. Why are we still doing this show? Because, God damn it, folks, we still have more entertainment for you. And speaking of which, we've got a very special guest tonight.
Todd, finally,
we had Herb on the W episode. We were hoping to get Colin at some point. We got him now, so we got Colin Gow.
Welcome to Ticket Stubs, Colin Gow of Watershed, and Colin Gow and the League Bowlers. And
I'm wearing my Lonely Bone shirt tonight, Colin. So
that's cool. That's a rarity right there. I got about 20 more in my basement. If you need a backup, you can have one. So
I'll take one. I'll take one next time.
Yeah,
I see
absolutely.
it.
I appreciate you having me on, guys. It's a thrill. So it's great. Thank you.
Thanks. We really appreciate it. I don't know if you've watched any episodes of the show, but it's been kind of a running callback here on the show whether we could actually get you on. And so finally we're here at episode 25 of 26, and we got you. So
I'm glad. That's great.
We appreciate you working us in.
Colin, just first off, how's the business going, bud? I know with the whole pandemic thing, it's got to be hard on small business people like yourself. So just give us a perspective on how Colin's Coffee's doing.
You know what? We're doing all right. I like to say we're too small to fail. And it's, it's one of those times where being a pretty small place in its own way is a blessing. We don't have a lot of moving parts. We have a small staff. I work, I can work here a lot, and, no one here depends on, their job for like a mortgage. It's, younger people, artists, and our customers are nice. So really, and we have a nice, just through dumb luck, we used to have a drafty store. Now we have a safe store. You know what I mean? We have double doors, thin glass. So we open the doors. We're just doing to go. And you know what? Our customers have been great. We're compared to what a lot of places are dealing with, we're really in decent shape. And coffee is one of those simple pleasures. It's like pizza of the morning, right? Everybody still kind of likes to go get their coffee. Right. So all things considered, we're doing really well. And obviously, I think about all those live music venues. Now they're really dealing with some problems. You know what I mean? So I feel like we got it pretty easy down here compared to what's going on out there for a lot of places.
Right on. And I know you have a show coming up soon to help with some of these venues, and we'll talk about that kind of at the end. Now, what we do here, we talk about concerts. So, of course, we got a list of 20 questions for you here, and
we'll make this quick, Colin. So we won't drag this whole thing out.
Right.
I don't mind.
And any of these questions could lead into discussion, and that's perfectly fine. We just all free form here. So
I got all night. I'm ready to go. So
all right, great. So what was your first concert?
I would say the first concert I really went to was Kiss Dynasty Tour in Richfield. Probably when I was in 4th grade, and I was a Kiss fanatic at a really young age, probably too young. Like in 1st grade, I got my hands on Kiss Alive. I put it on, and I knew I had to get electric guitar within the first 10 seconds of Deuce. I'm one of those guys. Right. Like me and a million guys from that generation, right? Kiss was just the whole world. So my mom surprised me. We went up, It was Dynasty Tour, and we were up in the upper deck of Richfield Coliseum. I remember thinking, like, what's that funny smell? Like, saying that out loud. I remember New England opened
Did your
up.
mom
and I
know?
thought, oh, I'm sure she did. And then, she was like, oh, I don't know. And New England opened up, and I was just thrilled to be there. And I remember the opening. But I will say this. I was maybe young enough, or my ears weren't firm enough, or the sound was just so crappy in the 70s. But I really couldn't even make out the songs in the upper deck. It was just loud. I remember, really, I didn't know what songs they were playing, but I didn't care. I was just thrilled to see Kiss. So that was, that was my first actual show. And then probably not, and then till I got old enough where a parent could take us. So I remember seeing the Kinks on "Give the People What They Want" down in Cleveland, and that was awesome. And then as Joe writes about in Hitless Wonder, going to see Cheap Trick like in 8th grade,
of course,
Ohio Center, where we were like, that's when we were old enough to be like, okay, now we're not just guys that like Kiss that are talking about a band. We're gonna start a band. We're gonna do this. So those are, but Kiss Dynasty is really the first one.
Well, that
kind of leads me into another question. But first, before I say that, as a child, which member of Kiss did you want to be?
Probably as a kid, maybe Ace, but Paul or Ace. I'm definitely more of the Paul guy now because I have to be. Only certain guys can be the Paul guy, and that's kind of my role. I'm not good enough at guitar to be Ace, but
I don't know about that.
I was always a Paul guy. I was always a Paul guy.
I was probably a Paul guy, but Paul was a little trickier around middle school. Paul has a certain thing about him. It's not always, it's not as easy to explain to the other guys on the block, but I always had to play Paul. When we were dressing up as Kiss, I was Paul. I always had to play Paul. And Gene was just too scary. I was scared of Gene. I mean, that poster was kind of horrifying, and I liked him, but I would never be convincing Gene, and obviously can't play drums. So put me down for Paul.
Off Gene. I'm sorry, Colin. You're too nice a guy to be a Gene Simmons.
Okay, well, this kind of leads into question 2 then, and I guess I could probably guess the answer to some of these. So what were your earliest influences on guitar, singing, and songwriting?
I know. I feel like I should, just to follow that last, I'm definitely a Paul guy now. I actually bought a Paul Stanley solo shirt just like a month ago, just for the hell of it.
Nice.
I love Paul Stanley.
Did you see the real quick? Did you see the Paul Stanley solo show at the Newport in what was it, 1989?
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me when you're saying best shows I ever saw. I was looking at that. I was thinking about that, and I was like, it's hard to recall them. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yep, we had talked about that on this show. So
great.
Got it. That was great. But okay, so back to your question. The big thing for me musically is the bus would go down High Street. I grew up in Worthington, and the bus would turn around and go right through our neighborhood, so it could like loop and go back down High Street. So this is just dumb luck that it happened to come down the same street where Joe and I and Biggie lived, and then Herb could catch it up later. So every weekend we go to the record stores. So that was what my family wasn't into music. I wasn't the guy who took like music classes in school. I just bought records and had an electric guitar. That was like my whole thing, right? So all my early stuff was like, obviously Kiss records, rock and roll was the only thing on the radio back then. So, you get to college and you're not hip. It's like, well, it's not my fault. I just listened to what I heard and bought those records. So, obviously Kiss was a big influence. Cheap Trick, huge influence. Kinks, I like, as far as songwriting, the way Ray Davies, those like mid 80s, like, he was a little more melancholy. It's almost like having a therapist, having listening to like, everyone likes to badmouth late, like those mid-period Kinks albums, but I love those records, like State of Confusion, Give People What They Want, and I really like those.
That was my first introduction to the Kinks, really, was those 80s Kinks.
Yeah, me too. I'm forgetting Aerosmith, huge. I loved Aerosmith. As far as playing guitar, those were like riffs I could kind of play. I mean, I liked all the stuff on the radio like Van Halen, but it didn't really influence us. You just couldn't. No one's going to be David Lee or Eddie. That's never going to happen. You know what I mean? So those would be probably the main growing up. And Billy Squier. Billy Squier's a big one. Like She's a Runner and those kind of things. They were just good rock records that you could kind of play along to and, hit some of those angsty buttons you like to push, when you're that age, And I didn't really date anyone ever in high school, ever. I didn't like talk to girls. So I just listened to records and played guitar and stuff. So that was my whole world.
Right on. Well, that's why we have you.
That's why we're good friends, Colin. That's why we're good friends, buddy.
So, what was, at least in your memory, what was the band's first gig?
I think we played the Bill Knapp's Christmas party.
Okay.
And
right.
which sounds like, I can't believe they hired like the youngest guys that work at Bill Knapp's. And people that don't know what Bill Knapp's is, it was like a restaurant like a Bob Evans in the Midwest. And we would all work there, and I was a busser, and Herb and Joe were dishwashers. And they hired us to play like the Christmas party in the annex. And we weren't even singing for ourselves. We had a singer then, and he was under house arrest for some reason. So the three of us played. And, you know, I had to be just the worst. We had to brought in a big PA, like we had a PA, and that was the first time.
Story.
Yeah, that's the first time I remember playing out live. We played some kid's party in his basement, and it like turned into this huge party where the cops broke everything up, and we were downstairs, and all of a sudden everything was empty. Those are like we played all these high school gigs, like Subway. We've been together so long that we would just play any gig we could. You know, our first campus gig was probably Mr. Brown's or Neely B's when we were like 17 or 18. Okay. They booked us there. And we were still in high school. So we played like some campus gigs when we were in high school.
See, those clubs are even before my time. I arrived in Columbus in '86 to go to
yep.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
And yeah, Neely B's was kind of I've heard so many stories about it, but it was kind of already passed.
I'm pretty sure that the first time I saw you guys was at the Ohio Union in '89 when you guys did a benefit for OSR.
Yeah, I remember that show.
And then soon after that, you guys did a string of shows at Apollo's.
Yeah, we could get booked at Apollo's. That was one of our stops. And, you know, we even played Stashes before Dan Dugan owned it. You know, when you're young, you're just any gig you can get. Like Bernie's was the big prize. God, could we play Bernie's? You know, because they had a crowd. They would pay you. Like that was the gig you wanted, you know. And, you know, that was like we'd play Neely B's and Apollo's with an eye on, you know, one day maybe we'll get a weekday at Bernie's, you know. But, you know, we just –
weekday at Bernie's.
But we were just, you know, those are the gigs, you know, whatever gig you could get, you took it. You know, you weren't picky back. You're just doing it.
The first show I remember seeing you guys, Todd brought me to a show. He's like, you got to see these guys. You got to see these guys. And he brought me to a show at Ruby's Basement. You guys actually played down in like the tunnel there by the bathrooms.
In the basement down at Ruby's?
No, really? I don't remember that. I know we played a basement at a place on corner of Lane and High. We played a couple basement gigs. Whatever that place was called up there. And then Ruby's didn't really have much of a basement. We'd play upstairs. So
that was more the place to hang out and get stoned.
I must be confused with another band, but man, every time I go down there to the basement now, they've got it gated off. And I swear I remember Watershed show down in that.
Oh yeah, that was the hangout area. Now
that was a hangout. Yeah.
I saw you guys play a side show at the Newport, not on the main stage, like by the back bar.
Yeah.
And you know, they have that little half area split off. I remember.
Yeah, they used to do shows. They used to do local shows there, and we played that a couple times. One time we opened up for the Uninvited, which was kind of a hip band in town, and I think we played another 4-band bill there. I know one of those we taped it. We have a live show of us playing there. It still is The Wire. Like All Right Tonight, and I'm trying to think what songs were in that set. Like On the Street. I mean, it was, you know, we were just writing songs. Nothing that I don't think any of those songs luckily survived, but yeah, I remember playing that room a couple times. You know?
Nice. Now you just mentioned it. The original name of the band was The Wire. Now you changed it to Watershed at the beginning of '89.
Yeah, maybe 90, 89, 90. I mean, we were just high school.
I'm saying 89 only because that's my personal memory, and who knows how accurate that is.
Yeah, but you know, when we started, Willie Phoenix like produced, you know, thank God for some reason took a shine to us. I don't know why. Saw us at Bernie's, right? Big gig. We're at Bernie's. Willie's there, and he's like, "Man, you guys got a nice full sound." You know, we're always like, "Full sound, okay, we'll take that." But we ended up doing a thing at Music Hall, our first like 6-song thing with Back to the Car on it, Todd, and all that stuff. But that was.
We're getting to that question later, Colin.
Yeah, he was like, "Hey man, you guys got to think about changing your name." And you know, there was another band from England called Wire. There was no internet back then, so we didn't know. And there is, you know, was that a problem? He's like, sort of. But Willie's like, but the bigger problem is you guys have a reputation for being the band of really loud guys that just brings in ton of you're the band that's known as not very good that brings in ton of underage kids. Like that's not the reputation you want. Now that you're 21, you got to switch your name, come out with this new record, and you got to start fresh. And so it was really Willie Phoenix who said you should switch your name right now when this thing comes out. And somehow the word Watershed came up, and we, there's a lot of cooler band names than Watershed, but at the time we knew enough to know we didn't know what kind of band we were going to be. So we didn't want to back ourselves in a corner with, you know, something like, you know, Battle Axe or, you know what I mean? Something where, you know,
Right.
Because, you know, like I said, we listened to those rock records growing up, but, you know, as we got older, you know, obviously, you know, Springsteen's a huge, you know, as the palette expanded, REM, Springsteen, all these things, you know, we were always kind of soaking it all in. We were just music fans. So Watershed just seemed like it gave us enough room to go in whatever direction, you know, we might go. Because it's not, you know, it wasn't like we were a metal band or a funk band. We always, and that's where I kind of think like Cheap Trick or the Kinks, we're a band where, yeah, you know, we like to play upbeat and party stuff, but, you know, we also like to play the darker stuff. We kind of like it all, you know?
Nice.
So we needed a name that we felt like maybe you couldn't quite pigeonhole it out of the gate because we weren't sure what we were really committed to, you know?
Right on, right on. Todd, while you're telling this story, Colin, Todd is holding up the original Watershed cassette produced by Willie.
Nice.
And showing all the pictures and the
Cool.
inserts. I couldn't get a close up. I think I got a name drop on the thank yous, but I'm not sure on that. So
Well, I hope you did. Yeah.
I remember you guys dropping this cassette off at my house as you just gotten it done. I was living on 11th Avenue, and you were getting ready to go to Florida for a road trip and play some gigs down there or something like that. And you dropped off one of the first copies at my house.
Cool. Oh, good. That's nice. Yeah, I think we had a 45 for that vinyl. I think it was Rise and Love Passes Underground or something maybe, and that was our single.
45.
Yeah, we take it to radio stations. It actually got on some things. It got some CMJ. It got a little like plays on a few stations. We would, you know, we were always into that stuff. You know, we just thought it was fun. I mean, people were always like, oh, you know, a lot of the campus record stores, you know, the word like careerist or whatever was like what we never thought of as that. We thought, well, if you get a record, you got to go promote it. It was just like, you know, we'd we'd stop at the local college radio station. Look, we met Todd. Like that was just what we did. You know, we just thought, well, you know, you can't make a record and tape and it's not going to do anything if you just sit home with it. Why go to all the trouble?
Right.
You know?
I remember meeting you guys at that gig at Ohio Union thinking, what can I do to help? How do I spread the word of Watershed? And I believe
you've definitely done that over the years.
Yeah, well, I said, well, you did it. So I don't know what the plan was, but you know, you working backwards, it worked out. So,
I did what I could, buddy. You know, I got you on a few.
Jukeboxes.
Oh yeah.
CD players in Los Angeles when I was out there.
Being on Barney's Beaneries jukebox, that's huge. That's like that carries weight. I mean, that's like that made us look like we were somebody. When we were out there, we were already on the jukebox.
Nice.
We're on that jukebox. I mean, come on. That's Epic Records had to pay some dude $50,000 to make that happen. You know what I mean? So that's really cool.
So
I called the head of Epic Records, telling him to pull his head out of his ass and let's start. You know, I don't know if I don't think I helped you out on that.
Maybe that's why you got dropped.
I think he dropped us about 5 minutes later. But that's all right.
All right. Well, speaking of Epic,
Todd Baker.
Speaking of Epic and your story there, this is kind of a generic question, but try to search your brain. Roughly, how many years or how many gigs did you play before, quote unquote, making it big? And by that, we'll say, you know, before you scored the Epic.
Before he got signed to Epic.
I mean, Biggie can answer this literally specifically. He's a historian, but you know, I don't know, 300. I'm guessing. I have no idea. I'm not really much of it. I don't really know our history in depth very well, like by the numbers.
We just
took every gig we could take, so that was kind of the thing, and we knew that, you know, it's kind of like. When you start playing music, you can do original music, you can do cover music. So that's your first decision. Cover is obviously a lot easier. You know, people want to hear those songs. I have respect for cover bands. Nothing against cover bands. I like cover bands. I don't want to hear your shitty songs. Play some Motown. You know what I mean? Like everyone gets it. But then we do original music, and that's obviously hard. And you got to write the songs. That's a huge pain in the ass. And then you got to have songs good enough that anyone cares. And you got to play them over and over. And you got to do that. And then the thing is, right, let's say it's going well in your hometown. I mean, there's always some band that's hot in your hometown. Like every 3 months, like this is the band, right? And everyone's loving you and your chicks are digging you and everything's cool. But you got to take that thing on the road if you're really going to do it, right? So you got to get out there. And we just decided, you know, we didn't want to be one of those bands that just stayed in our hometown. We wanted to go play everywhere. And, you know, you got to start over. Every gig's like one person, 2 people, 5 people. So we really just made a point of that, and it made us a real band because you got to play for yourselves. You can't play only when crowds like you. I mean, you really learn how to become a good band when you're playing in front of indifference because you realize you're doing it because I love this. I like being with the guys, and I love playing this music. And it really, if people want to get on board, that's great, but it's not necessary. It's nice, but it's not necessary, if that makes sense. So we learned that early on, that the music was the thing that we got to kick out, the camaraderie and being there, and the crowd or the, people getting into it. As much as we all enjoy that, there's good things that come with that. It didn't define us. You know what I mean? We could have a great show with 4 people there. I mean, we could,
And I've seen a couple of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's where we would, that was our thing, that we challenge our bar that every night we should be as good as we can be. So then when it came time and things started going better and whatever happened and people were interested in this and we were drawing more crowds, we had we felt secure in kind of who we were. And I think that helps you get signed because, it's, I don't know, you're not like totally seeking approval, if that makes sense. You're just going to do your thing. And if it works out, great. And if not, we'll try again tomorrow night kind of thing,
Right on. How did the Epic deal come about?
Well, it came about from a lot of hard work and albums and this and that. But specifically, we would send out packages. We all lived together to save rent money. And we toured all the time and booked all our own shows and playing CBs and all these places. But the last package I sent out one day, I was sitting there like, wow, this girl we went to high school with now lives with a guy who used to be sound man for Kiss. Maybe we should send him a package. And that's obviously the stupidest thing ever, right? But why not? We have our press kits. And I remember Joe being like, really? Yeah, I'll send it out to, Amy. So we sent out a press kit to a classmate of ours who's now in New York and is dating this guy. He used to run sound for Kiss on the Dynasty tour, I might add. I believe he did.
And his name was Don what?
Don Kettler. So we send out, and it's How Do You Feel is the song. So How Do You Feel gets out there, whatever. It's literally just this is just, what they say, you throw seeds and maybe something grows, right? And we've been turned down. We have rejection letters. We've been turned down a bunch of labels. And, we're doing what you try to do, right? Playing gigs. We're trying to just get the word out, get the music out. We don't know what getting a record deal means per se. We just know we want to get the word out. So we're doing that. And then we get a call, I don't know how much later, hey, it turns out that Don works with a guy named Jim Steinman, and Don had somehow played this to Jim Steinman's driver, Charles. And Charles started liking our tape, so he would play it in the limo, which is hard to believe in a car. It used to be a cassette player, and he was playing our songs. And finally, Steinman's like, man, I really like this. Who is this? And he said, it's this band Watershed. Don gave it to me. So Steinman, Jim Steinman of Meatloaf and all that crazy stuff, right, who's, obviously a legend, he loved it. So then he was like, who are these guys? I'd like to work with them. So Don came out to Columbus and, saw us at the Newport. And, that's where everything checks out, right? The thing, you make your own luck. You come see us play and it's, wow, there's people here and they're singing along. So he was like, wow, I think we've got something. So then we ended up after that, things moved really quickly after that. I mean, they wanted to manage us. They set up showcases in New York. We cut demos at the power station. Just with just on spec. They just let us do it because Jim had spent so much time there and money. He was working on Bat Out of Hell too. So he'd spent $1 bazillion in there. So when he wanted to take a band and record them, they just basically cut us some kind of reasonable deal. And then Epic Records signed us, So we always liked Epic because Cheap Trick was on it. I'm sure that's not very good.
So
that's not very good business.
How was that to be on the same label as your heroes, Cheap Trick?
Oh, it's the fucking best. And then our A&R guy was a guy named Frankie LaRocca, God rest his soul. He was the best. And he was a drummer. He played in the David Johansen band. He wasn't a suit, man. He was like a real rock and roller. So right when we signed with the label, whatever, out there, he sent us an advanced copy of Cheap Trick Live at Budokan 2, which by the way is out of print. This is the one that was really mixed with loud guitars and all the dark stuff. And that was the coolest thing. We got a secret Cheap Trick record from our A&R guy because he knew we were such big fans. I think we were more excited about that than half the things on the record deal. But it was obviously just it was a thrill. It was crazy. We were young, so it was really cool.
All right, so now, Colin, I know Kevin is desperately trying to stick to this list of 20 questions we had for Herb, and we're way off track. But
No, we're actually right on track. We just we only have to double back to one. So
all right, so let's go to the one of the few questions I remember here. How much of your advance money was wasted on Jim Steinman's weed and sushi?
Man, that's a good question. The sushi, probably a good amount. The weed, he's a big weed connoisseur. You know what I mean? Like that was like his thing, man. And so
before it was legal too. So
oh yeah, Jim Steinman doesn't live by like rules of planet Earth. I mean, he's doing his own thing. You know what I mean? He's a true eccentric, artist. I mean, we ended up doing the record in New York, and our manager, of our many managers, Sonnenberg's like, don't do it here. It's too expensive. Steinman's going to get involved. Jim will burn through your cash, blah, blah, blah. But Jim was the guy who really championed us. I mean, he was really the one. I mean, he got Richard Griffith, the president of Epic Records, flew in on the Concorde to meet Jim Steinman to take us to see the gig. The gig, I think you were at, Todd, New York City at the Downtime, where we basically cinched the deal. So if a guy's going to do that for you, you got to go. You kind of got to roll with it, because it was like, and we weren't stupid. And we knew, we looked at everything that was going on, and we made the best judgments we could make. So doing it in New York City was obviously, expensive and all this stuff on its own way. But man, we lived off $15 a day. We had our own apartment. We all shared it together. We were thrilled to be there. It was a blast. And, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I'm sure we would have burned through that money touring anyway, because we were always touring act. So it wasn't like we had our heads up our ass all the way, but we felt like, we owed it to Jim to kind of let him take the lead on this thing. And, that's what we did. And, all that stuff, I mean, it was fine. I mean, Jim, he's a great guy when he's there. He's an eccentric guy, but he always was like I said, we wouldn't have a career without Jim Steinman. So we're always in his debt. And, it was, it was fun time, but yeah, we had an accountant in the band. He probably would have been freaking out, but
hey, Colin, look, I always got to ask one of those, what the hell was that questions? Come on now, Colin.
And I think this, Todd, you might not remember this one, but this is another similar one. Well, it's not so similar, but how did you guys get Cheap Trick to show up at the library bar?
That's a good question.
That was really nothing. I mean, first of all, Frankie LaRocca, our awesome A&R guy, he was so cool. He basically got us those gigs, some gigs with Cheap Trick that summer, because he knew we were fans, and he knew Rick, because he had played drums with John Waite on that tour when they toured together. Frankie just was, he's a pro musician, so he knew everybody, the Tricksters. I'll call the Tricksters. You got to play with those guys. But having said that, through the years, I would go hang around back behind the Newport and wait for like Cheap Trick to show up as a kid. Like Biggie and I, one time were waiting there, and it was a comeback show at the Newport where Tom was playing with him again, and Lap of Luxury hadn't come out. So Cheap Trick was kind of on the skids, right? And we'd met him every time they played. We'd meet him backstage. Like we met Dave Masca backstage one time. He was there randomly. So I think when we got the show, we played with Andy. Rick's like, I got to hang out. Rick wants to talk to you guys. And he's like, you guys actually got a record deal? Because he would remember me like giving him a cassette of The Wire, like at his tour bus. So he was like, holy shit, these terrible bands on Epic Records. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's like, what, these kids got a deal. So when we played Columbus, I don't know what night of the week it was. I think someone said it was a Sunday, but they had nowhere else to go. And they're just so gracious. They're the best guys. And they didn't, where are we going out tonight, guys? So whenever we played Columbus, we always went to the library with every band, because it was just off the beaten path. And if you've never been, I'm assuming most people listening to this, or maybe most have, I don't know. The library bar, owned by Cricket, it's like Moe's Tavern, but a little cooler. Just a little. You know what I mean? That's the vibe. And that's where we go, because it was just a nice place to hang out after the show. And all the guys came in. I remember everyone was there, and I was talking to Tom or something. And he went, holy shit, Bunny's coming in. Because I guess Bunny never went out. And even Bunny Carlos came and hung out like all night.
Nice.
And, it was pre-cell phones. And the guys, it wasn't like they just popped in. They were there for hours. I played like bowling with Rick on that old machine for like an hour. And they were just there, and they just did it because they knew we were huge fans. And they were just, I don't know what to say. Those guys are just the coolest friggin' band ever. I mean, they made our nights and a lot of people in Columbus's nights, and they just did it because those guys are just gracious guys. They knew it would mean a lot in our hometown. Because any other time we played with them, we never hung out afterward. But in Columbus, they said, let's all go out. And that's really cool.
That
I
is
just
awesome.
wish I had a camera that night, Colin. I know you got a couple of pictures, but I got nothing. All I got is good memories. So
Yeah,
you know.
the only pictures my girlfriend at the time, Susan, had the presence of mind to take a picture with each member of the band. So there's just pictures of them there. But they still talk about that night at the library when Cheap Trick, was hanging out.
Oh yeah, dude,
That's awesome.
There's still a frame up in the library bar of the symbol you guys gave them that was signed.
Yeah, they were there all night. So
we've talked about it many times on this show where, Todd and I are at a certain age to where, we don't have all these cell phone pics and selfies and a documentation of everything we did. One of the reasons we're doing this podcast, to kind of put some of these stories down.
Well, think about nowadays that never would have. It would have been over in 2 minutes. All of Cheap Trick's hanging out at the library bar on campus right now. It would have been 300 people would have rolled in there. It was really just a bar night, and it was just like it never got any bigger. It was like 30 people. Whoever was there, and we just partied with Cheap Trick all night. It was great.
Nice. Okay, well, moving on to a different kind of bar. What are your memories of playing at the House of Blues in Los Angeles?
Well, here's what I remember. Our career was really on the line right around then. We didn't know we were going to get dropped like in 2 weeks, but we knew we had to, we were on the firing line. And it was our first show out in LA as a member of Epic, and the Smithereens were opening for Smithereens. And I think actually Kathy Valentine's band opened for us on the bill with Clem Burke, which is crazy.
Nice. Yeah,
so,
right.
Right. It's crazy. So we're touring the whole country with the Smithereens. And once again, the best guys, but Jim Babjack's wife's pregnant at this point. And, God rest her soul. She passed away recently. So he's any moment his wife could like give birth and the tour would be canceled. And we're just like, oh, please, God, you can't cancel LA. Like, we've got to get to LA. It's like we've been an East Coast band and Chicago band the whole time. We've never got to hang out in LA, and we've got to get out there and like at least meet people. You know what I mean? We've got to give ourselves a chance because we're friggin', we're on the chopping block here, with the label, because, Epic's tough. It's us and Rage Against the Machine. I mean, it's like being on an NBA team.
Chains.
Yeah, you're on an NBA team now. The bench is those 10 dudes. You know what I mean? So you're the last guy on the bench. So we get out there. So I remember just being happy it happened. We stayed at the Riot House, which is awesome. House of Blues is incredible. And they actually like treat you so well that they were like, we didn't have, because the Smithereens took the whole main suite, even though we were the opening band, we felt bad you guys didn't get a locker room, of dressing room. So we got you a suite across at the Hyatt. So you have an extra party suite to like entertain people. So we threw a party in Los Angeles, and it was like we threw like a real party. We threw a better party in Los Angeles than I could throw on my house on campus. It was like unbelievable.
I was there.
Were you there, Todd? Yeah, I
was there.
It was unbelievable. And then like once like
the only problem was first of all we didn't have the sunset view, which was that's acceptable. There you look, the opening.
I didn't know enough about what I was even looking at in LA. I was like I don't know. But
I remember Joe complaining that the windows wouldn't open, so we couldn't throw the TV out the window.
Someone was throwing like water balloons out the window. There were like members of the San Francisco Giants were in there hanging out in the Smithereens. It was great. But so yeah, that was fun. And it was our only, and we kind of knew that what was going down. So we met our Sony rep, and our Sony rep was a guy. God, I want to say his name was Michael Jansta. Out in LA. This is like the guy assigned to us. And he basically said, listen, man, it's probably, you guys probably aren't going to be long for this label. I got this card and I got this expense account. Let's use it. And we just pounded that thing. And we went out, we went to, I think Todd, we went to Barney's Beanery, right? You must've been there, right? The first time.
Yep.
You're the only person we knew in LA. So we went there. First place we walk into, Quentin Tarantino's there. We like walk into each other's backs. Like, these hicks from Ohio show up. And then we just, we're just rocking around LA. We're just having a blast. And then we go to meet a bunch of people the next day. And like the last person at Epic Records, I remember this. And this is nothing to be proud of, but it is a Midwestern thing. The last guy like comes, is like, Jesus, you guys all smell like beer. I'm like, we do? Because we had been just, that's just how we roll when you're from Ohio.
I remember 26.
I know, but like this is at Epic Records, their main office is out west. So, but we had a great time. And, the show was not great. I thought we were okay, but I'm just glad we got to play it and play the West Coast and, be there and all that kind of fun stuff. That's, it
was a sparse LA crowd for the openers. I will have to admit.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried about that too much. Like I don't even, it looked pretty big to me. When you're up in the Smithereens, it's all big crowds. You know what I mean? It's like, it was but it was a really I'm glad we got to play it. It was a really fun time, and all that other stuff. Was just kind of something we didn't do very often. I remember Dan Aykroyd came into our dressing room, and he asked how they're treating us. And I was like, oh, really good. He's like, I never asked the headliners because I know they're going to treat the headliners well. I always ask the opening act how it's going, which I thought that was really cool. And then later I saw Dan taking the trash out himself.
That's the story I remember. That's the story, because I remember arguing with my crazy girlfriend in the front of the House of Blues at the time, and I missed seeing Dan Aykroyd. Good Lord.
Hey,
yeah, he came in to check on just us. We had a little tiny closet locker room, I keep saying locker room, dressing room. And, he chopped, how you guys doing? I'm Dan, so, I mean, that shows you that guy's heart, right? That's really cool.
That's badass.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
cool.
I remember that weekend well, because, I had been in LA for just a few months, and, living solely on my unpaid credit cards. And and remember, you guys, Herb came over to my apartment for a little bit. We took a little drive down Sunset, went out to the beach. We went to Barney's Beanery and ran into, actually scared the shit out of Quentin Tarantino, as far as my recollection goes. Again, I had such a great time at that show at the House of Blues, for the fact that I'm seeing my buddies open for the Smithereens in LA, dude. I'm telling you, Colin, that was one of the greatest thrills of my life, bro.
Well, that's cool, man. No, it was a lot of fun.
You've already talked about the Cheap Trick and the Smithereens, so obviously they're probably going to be the answer to this question. But some favorite bands that you guys got to open for or toured with?
Yeah, I mean, Cheap Trick and Smithereens obviously are, two of the big ones up. Dash Rip Rock, one of the first bands to take us on the road.
Loved them.
Down in New Orleans. I mean, those guys, legends. Bill Davis and, obviously Hokey and Chris Lucky, then Kyle were in the band. Really, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better first band to take you on the road. And, through that, we did some shows with Cowboy Mouth, because Fred used to be obviously in Dash Rip Rock. So we just had this little weird connection with the New Orleans bands down there. So that was always awesome. Anytime, you can watch a band like Dash Rip Rock, do their thing and, take us, we play all these places through the South, crazy places. The Clarks in Pittsburgh were always really good to us. They always drew a great crowd, and that was always fun playing with those guys. They always just treated us really well, and it was really, nice for them to look out for us. Really never as many, obviously people like talking about the Insane Clown Posse shows, but we never really got as many tours as we'd like to do. We opened for lots of different bands here and there, but really those are the ones that just stick out, that were took us on the road for extended periods of time. And they were great. I mean, it was really great.
So now, do you think that thing still kind of exists in the music scene today, Colin, where, if you're one of those, young budding bands trying to make your way in there, can you go to a city like Detroit or Chicago or Pittsburgh or Cleveland and go, hey, you know what, let's help each other out a little bit?
I mean, I'm sure with house shows and stuff, I'm not really in the game anymore like that, but I'm sure with house shows and pre-pandemic, now it's all screwed. But
right.
Yeah, I think there's always that, vibe or people looking out, and way to bond with buddies. And, we obviously do a lot with Detroit. I should say that, the Horse and the Generals and those guys, and, just bands you're friends with, you just try to hook up shows. Paranoid Lovesick up in Cleveland. We would always, swap out gigs with bands when you could. But I'm sure that always, it's easier than dealing with a promoter. So, you just bring your buddy's band in and they bring you in, because a lot of clubs don't really care, who's on the bill, if they're, selling enough drinks.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure that'll live forever,
So that kind of leads to another question that maybe it's kind of the end of the list, but so when this whole pandemic thing is over, Colin, who do you gotta see when music comes back? What's the band that you gotta go see one more time?
It's funny, because you're not going to expect this answer, but I was telling my wife this not too long ago, that if there's one band I could just see one more time, it'd be Terry Anderson, the Olympic ass kicking team. I love that band. I love those guys. Yeah, that'd be the band I was thinking. Like, if I could, I just got to see one more band one time. I just got to see those guys. I just like love their band, their songs, their vibe as people. Like, that's something that's one I have to see. I mean, I've seen most, the arena acts a bunch. So not that I don't want to go see all those bands or big acts, but yeah, that's my answer. Terry Anderson and Linda Gaskeen King.
Right on.
If I
All
only
right.
see one more band, and maybe Marat. I'd like to see Marat one more time too, out of Philly.
Nice,
Nice. That'd be really cool.
So, all right, if anybody's watching this or listening to this, check those bands out. Colin has just given you a couple of good recommendations. All right, I got a question for both of you guys. Did you ever see any concerts together? I know I can't recall any. I know there's shows that all three of us have seen at the same time.
Yeah. Cheap Trick at Easton parking lot.
All right.
That was a crazy show. I mean, I'm sure Todd and I saw shows together. I just don't, back in those days, you would just kind of roll in and, everyone was kind of there. So I wasn't really paying attention. But yeah, that Cheap Trick at Easton show, I mean, I remember that was almost like on a Sunday, like, hey, did you hear Cheap Trick's playing? Someone posted that on shows. Maybe it's your tape, Todd. It's on YouTube. Someone put that up. It's a great set too. They really kill it.
Nice.
Well, the one show that I wish we could have seen together, and again, this is another long story, well off the 20 question list here, but there was a time in my senior year of college when I really wanted to see you guys play somewhere around South Carolina. And me and Mick and Weeb decided we would drive down on a Wednesday about 2 a.m. And I think you guys were playing on Friday. I had a crucial midterm that day and a wedding I was supposed to be at the next day. We ended up getting to Herb's house in Hilton Head Friday morning. You guys had already left the place, and by the time we got to figure out where you were playing, we had already missed the show.
Uh-huh.
So I did not make my midterm. Somewhere there is a husband and wife that did not have a DJ at their wedding, all because I wanted to go see Watershed somewhere in South Carolina. So
I don't remember the shows. I do remember we stayed at Herb's dad's condo for like a day.
Yeah,
we were touring and there was something there, and I remember I do remember this. We were waiting in front of the liquor store.
I don't want to delve deep into this. So,
we were waiting at a liquor store at like 10 in the morning before it opened on a Sunday just to get some reinforcements. And then by the time we got to Herb's place, like the cops had already like called his dad, like, there's these dudes hanging out on your balcony, like drinking, you know what I mean? It's like our off day. Sundays were always a big day with Watershed if we didn't play. We weren't always like that. We're not like Motley Crue, but I do remember and Dave Martin was with us, and we were on a tour, and Herb's dad had a timeshare or some kind of condo in Hilton Head, and we got to stay there for a night. So that was obviously a big deal when you're a broke band driving around in a van with no air conditioning to have a place in Hilton Head. That was pretty cool. So
right on. All right, well, we're going to talk about the new record here, but before we do that, while we have you on the show, since this is episode Y, there are two bands that we were going to talk about tonight, and I know that at least I've seen you cover both bands, so I don't know what your concert history is with either one, but I'm talking about Dwight Yoakam and Neil Young.
Sure.
Tell me any concert stories you might have for either one that pop in your head, maybe one for each.
I mean, I've seen Dwight probably 10 or 11 times. I mean, Dwight's probably in my top 10 all-time favorite music everyone. I mean, off the top of my head. I mean, he might be top
no surprise there.
7. I love Dwight Yoakam. I came to that party late, didn't know anything about him really, didn't listen to any new country, and we'd heard he was cool. And then we finally bought one of his records, and I remember it was only Hurts Me When I Cry came on the record, and I remember Biggie and I had enjoyed that song. We used to listen to Truck and Bozo on 700 AM. We drive all night because you can get that all over the country on AM radio, and we just became huge Dwight Yoakam fans, and still am. I mean, I just think the guy's amazing. Turns out he's from Columbus. Who knew? Mm-hmm. So I've seen him a bunch. I don't have any great story. I did have a chance to go backstage and meet him in Columbus at Polaris one time.
Nice.
And I just said no because I heard he's kind of cantankerous, and I was had a few beers. I'm like, I'm not one of those guys that needs to meet my heroes. He doesn't need to talk to me. And his family's from here, but I still have that backstage pass, I think, on the back of my Telecaster. So I put it on there. But yeah, Dwight's awesome.
Speaking
then,
of,
Neil.
oh, I was going to just add to the Dwight conversation here real quick. Speaking of meeting him, you said, he might be kind of cantankerous. One of the more recent times I've seen him was down at the Bluestone. And number one, he was looking very old. And I think he had a hip problem at the time. So, he really was showing his age when he came on stage. But
yeah, I was at that show. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he did a meet and greet right before the show. And literally, my buddy had bought tickets for the meet and greet. And they shuffled them in, Colin, 6 minutes before the show, like a group of about 40 people. So I don't know how much time they had with Dwight. But, it was literally like walk up, take the picture, and go. And he was back out, in the crowd within 10 minutes. And then the show started maybe 5 minutes after that. So I just thought that was kind of crazy. But
yeah.
Did you see Dwight Yoakam in 1988 at the Ohio State Fair by chance?
It was inside. I did not.
This was outside at the old grandstands, actually.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
Governor.
I did not.
Governor Celeste at the time presented him with a signed Route 23 sign, like a real road sign, that you would go and steal with your buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Governor Celeste at the time walked out and presented him with that for like his contribution to Columbus music history. So I thought that was, pretty cool.
That's really cool. No, we probably didn't get into Dwight till like, we were late to that party, like 91. Yeah, I don't know. We just didn't know about that stuff, and we weren't really like new country guy. Not that he was new country, we didn't know. It wasn't. We didn't listen to those records. We didn't know what was going on. God, yeah, we just Dwight's just the man. A lot, and we're a huge fan. So.
I hear you.
Colin, all I want to know is how come there isn't an official recording of "Turn Me On, Turn Me Up, Turn Me Loose"? Because you do a great version of that.
Isn't it on? It's on Star Vehicle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a secret track on Star Vehicle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bonus track.
Todd's confused here, but he's.
I don't have a copy of that.
Of Star Vehicle?
Of the bonus track? No, I don't.
Yeah,
no, that's the version.
CD.
It's on there. Yeah.
It's on your CD. You just turned it. You must be turning it off after the last track, cause.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, and then segueing into Neil Young Crazy Horse, Didn't Exactly Lie, which is a bonus track, is a total Neil Young Crazy Horse ripoff. We just put those songs on there because Star Vehicle would come out, and then the label it was going to be on, it all fell apart. So we got in our hands for like a week before it was being repressed. So we thought, why don't we just add 3 songs to it? That were just demos, but it'd just be fun. Once again with Watershed, we're like music fans. Wouldn't it be cool to have a version with bonus tracks? So we put Something Wrong and Turn Me Up, Turn Me Loose, and Didn't Exactly Lie, which don't really make a whole lot of sense. But
I don't have this. How do I
Todd, you must have the original pressing, Todd. You're a real fan. You got the first pressing.
Yeah, and it's a Star Vehicle with the American flags upside down and all that stuff. That's someone, and then it's all remixed and stuff. With Star Vehicle's way more rocking and stuff.
The one I have.
Yeah, so that's the one. But yeah, so Didn't Exactly Lie was definitely, sounded like, a Neil Young thing. And I'm a Neil Young Crazy Horse fan. I mean, I like Neil Young, but I'm like, Crazy Horse is my jam. Like, and I'm not like, it's not like Dwight. I'm a bigger Dwight Yoakam fan than Neil Young fan. I know it probably sounds crazy.
The Greenvale tour?
Yeah, I did not. I've only seen Crazy Horse one time, and it was awesome. And that was, whatever, he hasn't been around, but anyway, that kind of vibe, especially with the boulders and stuff, is a little more, Watershed's definitely more Cheap Trick. I should say that we kind of we have so many songs that we kind of take our songs and put them in bands, like the boulders where we put our Georgia Satellite songs, and the bones are kind of where I'd put like, maybe more of the personal stuff. And then Watershed's kind of more our wheelhouse, like Kinks, Cheap Trick kind of stuff. So, and in there is somewhere in the Neil Young stuff is just with Crazy Horse. That's just fun to play in bars. You know what I mean? We just enjoy it because we're just rock fans. And it's that kind of thing.
I hear you. I've been fishing for shows that we may have seen together. Did you see Neil Young in 1986 at the Ohio Center? The third world.
The one time I saw.
Go ahead.
The only time I saw Neil was at Horde Fest.
Oh, okay.
Whatever in Columbus, outside.
Oh, okay.
And
Gotcha.
It was awesome.
Gotcha.
It was Crazy Horse. The hair went on when they opened up Into the Black, like I got chills. I can still remember it. It was freaking awesome.
I don't know if
You know?
I don't know if you remember or have seen bootlegs or anything of that tour. The Third World's Best Garage Band in 1986. He was still kind of coming off of the Live Russ thing with had the fascination with giant stuff. So it was a giant garage. You know, he had a giant washing machine in the corner, giant tire. The roadies were dressed as mice, and they would run out like hunched over to, you know, do their thing.
God, yeah, I don't remember that.
The curtain was a garage door, you know, and of course when it opened for set one, it made the sound of the garage door going up. A neighbor came and complained, and you know, about them making so much noise. That's what ended the first set, or no, actually, what ended the first set after the neighbor complained. Neil's mom called on the phone and said, "Neil, you know, you're going to have to stop that practice. We're going to send some exterminators down to take care of the mice." And so, of course, some guys came on, sprayed dry ice. Todd, this tour, there's actually a bootleg where Sam Kinison plays the angry neighbor who comes in and yells at him. So see if you can find that. But anyway, that was a pretty cool
I wish I had seen that. I wish I had seen that tour. That show would have been good. You know,
that was a pretty cool way to discover Neil. So anyway, and then Todd had mentioned Todd had mentioned the Greendale tour. Neil, of course, is his own artist, and on that tour, you could literally see the people at Polaris getting more and more pissed off with each song as they realized that he was going to play the whole new album, and not play anything old.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah, I remember hearing that story. Yeah. So
Now
that's tough to pull.
He ended up playing, you know, 4 songs with Crazy Horse after the whole, you know, play was over. but yeah, that was a long wait, you know, for Hey Hey My My.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Colin, we're going to give you a chance to actually talk about the new Watershed album.
New music, yay!
So,
no, I appreciate it.
I'm looking at my. You'll have to verify this. I'm looking at. I must have the old copy of Star Vehicle because I do not have.
Todd has the other cover with the silver cover with the Watershed logo. So
the star and all stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, we got to get that to you. That's you're falling down the super fan rankings tonight, my friend. This is gonna knock you down.
I do have the bonus.
No way around it.
I do have the bonus 2 song CD with Star Vehicle and Black Concert T-shirt with the McDonald's cover on it. So I got that.
Yeah. Oh, that's just a single, right? Oh, geez.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We got to remedy that. Yeah. So we got the new record together. We've been recording stuff the whole time. Finishing it's an issue, all that kind of thing. You know, and it's funny with Watershed when you talk about like glory days, like to us, like the Epic Record stuff was like we were still just kids. Like I've had probably 3 highs, I would say, that have been 4 outside of Epic that are bigger. You know, The More It Hurts, you know, Can't Be Myself did really well. 5th of July, that whole era was just the best the band ever was. And then, you know, with Brick and Mortar, Hitless Wonder came out, and that was a sensation, you know? So, like, that was really – so people have different feelings about different eras, you know? So with the new record, it's just a 4-song thing, but we went back up with Tim Padalin, who really, you know, saved our, you know, The More It Hurts and 5th of July, at the end of the day, are really the 2 Watershed records that form – the most important part of our career, which is odd because it was in the middle of our career, and critics noted that. You don't see many bands hit their stride later, and we did. And so anytime we can work with Tim, that's cool. We had booked the time way in advance because, you know, we're not like full-time guys anymore, anything like that. And we got up there in that barn, and we just had 4 or 5 days to go for it, and Tim was in rare form. And, you know, we just felt like, let's finish these 4 songs and put them out. We've got other things in the can that are sitting around, but we just wanted to put that out as a collection, and it just felt right. And we feel really great about it. We feel great about all the stuff we released, but
it's beautiful
it was
artwork,
really cool to be there.
And it's nice of you to represent the state of Ohio in it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an awesome graphic design where you worked in basically.
So that's all Biggie. Yeah, Biggie did Biggie's a master. He did all that stuff, and the video for Bleeding on a Blank Page, that was all Biggie. And, you know, it was really cool. It was a really small project. It was really the project, you know, was just Tim Padalin, Joe Herb, and I. Herb had never recorded with Tim. You know, he didn't. Dave Maska played on the Tim Padalin albums. So to get those guys together, there was no one out, no outside help. Biggie did the artwork, and I think maybe Rick Kinzinger helped master the tracks. Rick's in the band, but he couldn't be up there at the time. So we just did it, and it was just a really pure rock and roll moment of like 4 days laying it all down. It was, done and knocked out. So we just, we couldn't be happier with it. And,
Nice.
It felt like it was just a cool thing to put out as like a standalone and not add other things or try to jump. We talked about it. It's not smart to put out a 4-song, 30, big record, but it just felt artistically, if we would have added things we had done, it would have diluted the kind of the vibe. So we just decided this is what we're going to do. And there it is. So,
dude, as a vinyl fan,
we always support you 100%, buddy. You know that.
Right. Well, as a vinyl fan, you're on the phone with us, so you're not seeing, behind me, but, I have my whole collection behind me, and it's cool to just have a Watershed record. I mean, that's really cool.
Oh, look, believe me, we should put Mort Hertz and Fitz July especially should be on vinyl at some point. They
I
do
would
such
be
great
first
records.
in line.
Yeah. But we can't, we're more working on, for better or for worse, we're always looking forward. That would be a no-brainer. And here's a question for you. We've talked about this. The smart thing to do would be a double album and and do a Watershed Greatest Hits double vinyl album. So if you guys ever want to put your dream list together of what would be on that, send it our way. Because we thought
Todd
that would be a cool.
Is that a challenge, Colin?
Todd is completely geeking out right now. It's at this potential
soundtrack. Yes. When Hitless Wonder gets reissued, whenever that comes up, because it will, I was like, soundtrack to the book Hitless. We do a soundtrack to a book.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm gonna start auctioning off my Kiss items now, so I can save money for the for the donation that's necessary.
Yep. Me and Todd are number 1 and 2 on the Kickstarter for sure.
Yeah. So no, it'd be fun to do something like that, and we can do it. There's no reason not to do it. It's just more just like we're always thinking, like Willie Phoenix would tell us, we're more worried about going forward. But at some point it would be cool to have that kind of thing out there and on vinyl and
How long have I been talking about a Watershed box set? Now, come on, Colin.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it would be obviously, yeah. I mean, that would be cool. But like I said, we'll see. But that's definitely in the back of our minds of putting together like a double record, big open gatefold, like with a big history, a bunch of songs. I think that would be a cool thing to do. So we'll go from there, and then.
Okay,
we drive you down to Athens, Georgia. I introduce you to David Barbie. He's a great producer. I know
player for Sugar.
But I think maybe the guys in the Drive-By Truckers might be willing to help you out on a project like that. We'll get a package deal kind of thing going. I think it'd be a great combination. I don't know.
Well.
Yeah, Todd's always pushing his dreams. Todd's always pushing his dreams, Colin. There is a rumor that there might have been some ballot box stuffing involved in your 1988 win for the Lantern's Best Local Band Award. True or false?
Oh, we totally stuffed that thing. Now this isn't a federal election. There's not observers from both sides.
All right.
Yeah, we were living in apartments at Harrison House, and the whole floor is out. We were friends with guys. We're all partying, and then we saw that like, why don't we just stuff this thing? And like we won. Like we barely had any gigs. We were playing like Neely B's and all this stuff. And there's a picture of us on there, and it's like we beat out the OSU marching band on the Toll, for God's sakes, the best band. That was just fun, just good time. I guess in a way that Watershed, you can look at two ways to do our minds. It's not like it's punk rock, but we always just thought it was funny. So we would just do stuff like that.
It's punk rock.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
No, it got us gigs. We got gigs in Athens and that. We were voted best band.
Okay, we got a few more things here, and then I want to let you plug some stuff. But what are your predictions for the Buckeyes this year?
I'm just gonna ask college football.
Let's talk about football.
I mean, the Buckeyes should, we're on the table in the Big Ten. There's not much competition, I don't think, and I don't think
they stay healthy.
We were last year. Yeah, we've lost a lot of guys. I mean, Dobbins is a setback, and it's weird with the whole college football and the COVID. It's just such a weird thing because it makes you realize, like, we're playing Rutgers this weekend. There's so many blowouts in college football. I know the Buckeyes benefit from that, but it just, I don't know. It feels a little weird playing these games. But my prediction is we'll make the playoffs, and
Against who? Wisconsin?
I'll just say we're going to win it, but I don't believe that really. But
We're all
Justin
homers
Fields
here. It's okay.
yeah, Justin Fields is so good, and it's such a weird year, so why not? But these people that say that like we're better, this is one of the best teams of all time. I'm like, we lost a lot from last year's team. It's not that
Ohio
easy.
State beat Clemson, Colin? That's the question. Can Ohio State beat Clemson this year?
Man, we should have beat them last year. That's the problem. That's the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we're better than they are this year than they were last year. I thought we were better than them last year. We lost, but yeah, we can beat them. But we need a game like they had. We need a couple of their guys getting tossed out. We need the break. We need the breaks to go our way. We need a strip sack for a touchdown to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we could definitely beat them. But it's tough when you've been losing those guys. It's tough to come in and run your mouth. I mean, those guys have owned us. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we can beat him, and Fields is amazing. He's unbelievable. Our receivers are amazing, and the team's coming on. So
I'm just glad we get to see him.
That's my thing.
I'm glad we get to see him play this year. That's my thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's so much fun, and it gives you some joy. And and I watch it, and watching a guy like it would have been a shame not to watch a guy like Fields play. He's so good. He's
Amen.
So good.
Amen, for sure.
Yeah.
And by the time
and speaking of looking forward to seeing people play, buddy, I know I'm speaking for myself and Kevin, as well as millions of Americans across the country who cannot wait to see Watershed play again live.
I get to Todd.
Yeah,
I get to see Colin this weekend, but actually, by the time this airs, it will have happened. But when we're recording this, I get to see Colin in just a few days. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that for a second. I was going to write about
talk about that.
I mean, it's a really, as I don't have to tell you guys this or anyone listening. I'm assuming everyone listening to this is a huge music fan, but it's not hyperbole to say this has really hit the live music industry, other than like maybe cruise ships, harder than anyone in the world. And we take COVID very seriously, and I know all that stuff. And everyone's different. There's clubs that are trying to survive. There's musicians that have to play gigs just to make, put food on the table. So I'm not judging anyone, but we were like, well, with the bowlers and myself and Andy and Herb and Rick, we don't depend on this to get by. So if we can show up and play a show and donate our services for free, and the weather's nice outside, and help the clubs out, that's kind of what we're looking at. We're like, if the weather's nice, and people are gonna have to suck it up. I mean, we have some cold gigs, but
Right.
We're gonna play the show at Ace of Cups. Marcy Mays runs this incredible club in Columbus, Ohio. She's an incredible musician and person and club owner.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, she is.
we decided on 20. I looked at the weather. Hey, Saturday's nice. Can we come play? She was like, that'd be great. We'll play in the afternoon. All the money goes to the club, and we'll do a show. So we're kind of trying to figure out, well, if we can go play a place that's pretty safe and help somebody out, that seems like a fair trade.
Nice.
And that's where we're at. But like I said, once again, every musician, every club, as you know, every person has their own issues with whatever's going on with this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how we're approaching it. But we're hoping this is a model that can work in the future, where we can show up on short notice and do a show, and it helps somebody. That's kind of where we're at. We have the ability to do that. So that's kind of the idea of what we're thinking going forward. And I think it'll be fun, and hopefully it helps pay their rent for a month, because man, it's going to be tough for all these independent original music clubs to survive.
We
That's
thank
a great
you
thing.
for everything you've done.
Yep.
So well, hey,
sure.
so
I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing it, Colin, and probably when we do our final episode next week, I will probably have some good things to say about it. Hopefully, I'm sure.
All right, cool. Yeah,
As long as you don't have terrible.
I'll admit we're not super rehearsed. I mean, that's part of
That's
it. You
rock
have to
and
get
roll.
out of your comfort zone. And Andy, we're small amps. It's outside. It's patio. They've got neighbors there, but we figure it's worth trying. You know what I mean? So let's just try it. And then look, there's days in Columbus. Let's face it. We all, climate change is real. We might be able to do shows in December and January. We can help
Right
Marcy
now,
out.
yeah.
It's going to be, if it's over 50, and it might be a lot of days, we can show up in 24 hours notice, and, people, and it's all socially distanced,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just something,
Right.
it's a way to help.
Amen.
So, you know,
Todd and I have we've joked and we've joked about during all of this. Of course, you know, it led to us being able to do this because this is kind of our way to get together over these calls. But we kind of like this whole new social distancing thing. You know, I always like my personal space anyway.
yeah, of course.
So, all right. Now I have two last questions for you, and Todd may have something to follow up with, and then I'm going to let you plug just the current record, just kind of what's going on. I wanted to ask you about when you wrote the song "Podcast." Did you ever think you would be appearing on Todd Baker's podcast?
I mean, no, but it's not shocking. I mean, for all the work that I did on. I mean, all the work, all the shows he did on community access, well, you know, what the hell was that? I mean, yeah, I mean, he should be the king of podcasts. So, yeah.
Right on. That's what
I've been trying to convince him
of this, Colin.
I've realized, yeah.
I've been trying to convince him of this. He has the gift of the gab if I can just keep him focused. But, you know, we try. We do.
Easy.
As he holds up a beer. And then here's my last question, and then you and Todd can take this and take it wherever it goes. Will Todd ever get to see Back to the Car perform live again?
No.
There you go, Todd. There's your answer. Put it to rest, buddy.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, I've lost my motivation, Colin. You know,
Yeah.
it's been 30 years. The only reason I keep coming back year after year after year is just to hear that one song. Now, when you gonna play it? You know, but if that's the case, if I'm never going to hear Back to the Car again, that's fine. I'll just have to start my own Watershed cover band, and that'll be the first song we learn how to play.
You know, just, you know, when it comes time to put out the double album, maybe you can get a lobby and get it put on there. But I don't know, work Herb on that. Herb might be able to talk me into it. I doubt it, though, but we'll see.
I can talk Herb into it. It's you and Joe that have been fucking working on for the last. I mean, I've driven to Virginia. I've driven to D.C. They've got me on NPR with you saying,
That's true.
Todd, we're not playing that song. I'm sorry. Am I busting balls? I'm busting balls. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. No, I understand. You know, we got a lot of songs, yeah, requests, but you know, we wrote that as kids. You know, maybe one day. I don't know. I don't even know that song more, but you know, we'll see. But yeah, probably not. You know, it's not. We got too many other songs that are just better. I don't know what to say. We don't play that many gigs. It's tough to give up that time. You know?
Right.
If I got to donate every last cent of my life insurance policy to Any Man's Treehouse in order to hear this song before I go, that's what I'm willing to do. That's all I'm saying.
I think you should save your money and then just get in the shower and crank that thing up loud while you're singing, and just imagine we're playing it.
And then throw the toaster in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Put on an old video of Watershed and just turn the audio down and play Back to the Car.
Going back to the car.
It can be one of those things you just drive around and crank up in your car. It'll be awesome. And
there
you
you go.
Keep all the money. It'll be just as good.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so Colin, tell everybody how to get the new record. Tell them what you're going to be doing. This episode, by the way, is going to air on December the 20th. So I've got to say, I know that this will be the first year without the traditional
Happy holidays.
Colin Gow and League Bowlers Christmas Eve show.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have something on hold at Woodlands, but
Okay.
I don't know if that means it's going to be like a stream or something. I don't know what that means. But you
Right,
know,
obviously it'll be different this year, but
yeah, they're I don't know what, you know, we're pretty adamant about playing outside. We aren't able to play inside, but we'll see. I don't know. You know, I talked to Nick. They're good people. We're just trying to work. Like I said before, all these bands, all these clubs, they're all in tough spots. So every situation is kind of a, you know what I mean?
right.
Game by game kind of thing, and the numbers and all that terrible shit we're all dealing with. We're all kind of seeing with that. But yeah, the Watershed record vinyl's pretty much sold out, that run. But obviously, it really is always helpful, you know, as lame as it sounds, to go on Spotify, share the music. If you want to help the bands you like, whether it's us or, you know, whoever, get on there, you know, share the songs, put them on playlists. All that stuff really matters. I mean, that's the way the game's played now. So, you know, and I shouldn't even say game. It's like, that's the only way to get the music out. So, you know, if you can click, if you're listening to a song, you like it, click share, put it on whatever social media. And, you know, I've found all kind of great songs from people that share, you know what I mean? So that's put on the new Watershed extended player and, share it around. And that's really helpful. And it's, if you like it, if you don't share it. I don't care. But like, that's really a way to do it. But the vinyl pressing is pretty much done. I mean, it did really
That's
well.
Awesome. That's
So
awesome. Well, I've got one. I've got one, and I am glad to have it. But
and I should tell you guys this, talking about podcasts. What we want to do is do a Watershed poster podcast where we do a podcast based around the poster on every picture.
Yes.
So we've talked.
Great idea.
We've talked to Brian Phillips about that, some people, but it's not finalized. So maybe you guys end up hosting an episode of the Watershed poster podcast.
Nice.
I don't know.
I will run it. I will gladly run it on the 5-for-2 network, since we stole the name of our network from one of your old songs that I'm sure Todd would love to hear again live too.
But that would be, we thought that would be a fun thing to do, because that poster has, I mean, there's not many bands, and this is a quote from a former manager, was telling us how the guy was telling me, some of the guy in the industry was like, you guys need to do a poster, because you're the only band that from 85 to 2020 has done something all the time. You didn't just like come back. You've always done it, and there's never been a reason to do it. Like, that's like what's really, no one's like that. And I was like, yeah, he's right, if you think about it. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there. So we thought it'd be fun to maybe break down the poster and go through it with the guys. And we could get, Herb and I and Joe, and then have Pooch in it. There's a lot of players in this band, and we've had a lot of help. I mean, we couldn't be there without, people like Jim Simon, Frank LaRocca, Frank Aversa did Star Vehicle, Biggie, you guys, Todd Baker, obviously, Pooch and Joe Peppercorn carried us for years, amazing talent. Mike Landau produced things with us. I mean, so it would be fun to get everyone's take. And Dave Masca is an incredible player, and carried us through really the glory days of the band.
Colin, we really appreciate you coming on.
We do.
Well, guys, we'll wrap it up. I just want to say, Todd and Kevin, I mean, that's why, you play rock and roll to meet guys like yourself. I don't know any two bigger rock and roll fans and fans of just life than you two guys. It's awesome knowing you, and it's been an honor to be on here. So keep on rocking, doing your thing, and thanks again for having me on. It was really an honor. Thank you. Go Ticket Stubs.
Wait a minute, he didn't even play Back to the Car. What the hell, Kevin?
He told you were never going to hear that song, Todd. I wanted him to tell the 5-for-2 story, but we kept the poor man on the phone for like over an hour. So
he was a trooper. God bless him.
Great stories, man. I can't wait for this one.
We love. Look, I'm wearing your shirt, for crying out loud. You say you got 45 left. I'll buy 20 of them. I don't care. So
All right, Todd. Well, we've talked about the only whys that we had, and we fit in. We finally got Colin Gow on the show after 25 episodes. We got him on here. So.
We got 2/3 of Watershed. Can we get Joe A. Strike? We've
got one episode left. Episode C.
All right, so
we're finally there next week, Todd.
There's no fucking way Joe A. Strike's coming on this show. But folks, look, the book is almost done, and for all of my drive-by truckers, brothers and sisters out there, Kevin, Heather included, we will miss our brother from another mother, and and all I know is, Jimmy, I'm going to see you soon. Maybe not soon, but
I hope not soon. But
I'll see you another day, buddy.
We will see you at the Great Rock Show in the sky.
Yep.
Right.
Save me a seat by the cheese bar, Jimmy.
All right. So next week, folks, we've got the last and final chapter of season 1 of Ticket Stubs. We'll see what and when season 2 may hold, or if this is going to be it. But tune in next week. I'm sure you have a ZZ Top story, right, Todd? You did title your book AC/DC.
I have several ZZ Top stories.
Okay.
I've got a few Warren Zevon stories.
I think you've been saving. I think you've been how nice that we got to save. How poetic that Warren Zevon comes up.
He should be saved for last.
Season closer.
Save for the best for last, Kevin. Come on.
So this show is going to air on on December the 20th. So let's wish everybody out there a happy
Merry
Hanukkah,
Christmas!
Merry Christmas,
Happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa,
whatever you celebrate.
All of them, all those things.
Happy holidays is acceptable here on Ticket Stubs. So as long as we get the other good stuff in there too.
Yeah.
So, all right, buddy. I love you. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. You should already have my gifts by now, but since we recorded this back in November,
you finally got my wedding card, didn't you?
I did finally get your wedding card after you resent it. But
hey, look, folks, I sent 2 wedding cards. Both those motherfuckers cost $7 a piece. So I did not send no Walmart 50-cent wedding cards.
Okay, I won't make a "but we should trust the mail" joke, but anyway, I did. Anyway, I love you. We got one more, Todd. See you next week on.
We're almost there, buddy.
Can you
See you
dig it?
next week, pal.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
My soul's got serious traction. I better still to get some action. You're all the cause us misfits. Baby, you don't give two shits. You shouldn't care about it anyway. You gotta let go one day. We wear all the latest clothes. We see all the coolest shows. Bouncers at the nightclubs let us in. Wouldn't take one day back. Live it again. My steel toes start kicking. My new tattoo